Was Friday night's United States men's national team game fun? We talk about expansion of soccer in Arkansas, and we celebrate the anniversary of the Save the Crew movement. That and more on Monday's edition of Morning Kickaround. Hello and welcome to the show. You found your way to Morning Kickaround, covering the world's game from right here in the United States of America. Coming to you live each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday right here on the YouTubes. My name's Robert Kerr, local soccer guy. To my side here, Jason Davis, radio soccer guy. Together, we dot the map as Morning Kickaround. Thank you for joining us. How are you, good sir?
I'm good. It was a fine weekend. It was fall has completely landed in Northern Virginia. So the weather started changing. Went out to eat with my wife, celebrating 7 years of marriage. Actually, 7 years. Very auspicious 7 years today. We'll talk more about that. 7 years of marriage with my wife. Had a nice little al fresco dining experience, but it was just a tiny bit chilly, a little bit windy, but great. I enjoyed it.
The romance of alfresco can be easily ruined by a touch of a breeze, perhaps, or maybe some creepy crawlies coming up on you. But I'm glad you're having a good time. A lot of good things happened 7 years ago for Mr. Davis, it would seem. As we get into our great show we got lined up for us, hit subscribe if you haven't done so already. Take a step above and go to a channel membership. Searching for those words. A channel membership. Become an MK Ultra. Join the movement. We had some members joined the Morning Kickaround Discord server over the weekend. Very active, lots of great discussion. Got to see a variety of lower league games folks went to over the weekend and some robust conversation about the national team game on Friday, which we will get to in just a moment. But, if you can't catch us on YouTube, Morning Kickaround is a podcast. You can also check us out on the social media, but definitely all the best content, bonus, and I'd say more casual open conversation happening on the Morning Kickaround Discord server, which you can gain access to by becoming a member. You ready for the show, Mr. Davis?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's get into it. Got stuff, right? We got stuff.
Let's dot the map. Let's dot the map. Let's talk about it all here on Monday's edition of Morning Kickaround. Leading the show today, United States men's national team won, Ecuador won. Not often do you come away from a 1-1 draw saying that was fun, but I kind of came away from Friday night's game thinking that was actually an entertaining game, a pleasurable experience when it isn't always the case with watching the national team.
Well, it's not always the case with the friendly that you have that you feel encouraged, or even if you win the game, sometimes friendlies have this kind of vibe about them. And then look, I think in a normal situation, a friendly, even that 1-1 against Ecuador would feel maybe a letdown. I mean, it would feel like they should have played better. They should have done better. They should have found a winner. They shouldn't have given up the goal to Ener Valencia the way that they did, all of those things. But I think if you take the overall performance, and that's what this sport is built on, Rob, it's subjective opinions about overall performance is kind of how you have to view this sport. Look, if they played that way in a World Cup match against a team like Ecuador, who qualified for the World Cup, second in CONMEBOL, like this is no pushover team. I know, no Moises Caicedo, no Piero Hincapié, they're missing names, sure. But if they play like that against a team in the World Cup, I think we would be disappointed with the result. But we couldn't really be angry about the way that they played, right? The United States outshot Ecuador. They had way more of the ball, and that doesn't always mean something, but they were dangerous with it at times. I'm glad they got the goal, because if they had managed to lose the game, despite being better across 90 minutes, that's what we would be talking about. The lack of killer instinct, the lack of ability to finish a chance, that kind of stuff. I will say, and this is an important factor, Ecuador just doesn't give up goals, right? Regardless of Hincapié's absence or Caicedo's absence, those are important players for their defense. Ecuador doesn't give up goals. That's a system thing. That's a that's just the way that they are. You go look at their CONMEBOL record in qualifying; it's very good. They don't give up goals. So for the United States to even find one is somewhat notable.
Yeah, that's a good point there. And in the chat, Bernardo saying it felt like the England game from the World Cup, and that's a pretty good shout. But you were saying the caveats for Ecuador players missing, and we talked about it in the men's national team. We can't expect all the good players to be there all at the same time. So equal footing there for both sides.
Exactly.
And I gotta say, it was great to see Flo Balogun looking healthy and fit and active. This is the player that got everyone so excited a year or two ago, whenever it was that he declared himself a United States men's national team player. And this is what fans were hoping for, and he delivered that. It was great to see him moving freely, clearly not inhibited by any sort of injuries, and he did the job that was needed. He was that outlet, and he was always a threat. The Ecuadorian defense had to respect his threat, and he drew people out of the way. And when he was on the ball, he, got some shots off and obviously ended up getting the goal too.
Yeah, we didn't come into this feeling great about what it was going to say about the national team because we knew that Alex Zendejas had to pull out of the team or pull out of that game. We wondered about Jedi Robinson. He wasn't available. And then Christian Pulisic, obviously. And of course, Pulisic gets on the field, is a part of it. We saw faces like Freeman, like Luna, a little bit off. Actually, Tim Weah as a wing back, that's a thing people talked about. He has played it at the club level, but not really for the national team. So that's maybe something you take out of this. I mean, again, friendlies like this are always an exercise in, can I take out little pieces? Is it about the overall performance? Maybe, sure. The system, he picked a back three again, Rob, right? Does this feel like we're kind of solidifying that as the system the U.S. is going to play on the run up to the World Cup and probably at the World Cup? Do you trust Miles Robinson, who stepped in with Richards and Ream? Would you rather see Mark McKenzie, who got about 15, 18 minutes? Would you rather see somebody, Kevin Carter-Vickers is in this camp. Obviously, there are players who aren't here that we would want to see in this team in the future. So, again, it is not, oh my gosh, look how great we were. And it's not, oh, we couldn't find a winner. It's kind of, all right, encouraging. Let's move forward.
Yeah, indeed. They play against Australia late on Tuesday. So we'll be able to talk about that on Wednesday. If we're able to stay up late for that one, it'll be interesting to see. Yeah. But encouraging signs that, it's rounding into some sort of a shape that looked like it could be competitive in a real situation.
Yeah, look, let's just point out here. Okay, so the lineup, before we move on, Matt Freese in goal. Does feel like maybe Matt Freese is making that job his. You had that back line of Ream, Richards, and Miles Robinson. Now, maybe Miles Robinson is not the first name that you would turn to when you're talking about center backs for the national team. I mean, there's nothing wrong with him, but he's not like solid in that spot. So it could be McKenzie at some point. Obviously, Cameron Carter-Vickers, as we said, was in this team. For whatever reason, Austin Trusty doesn't seem to be part of the picture, but it's there. Then you had Arston at left wing back, which again, that's been his position because we've had Jedi Robinson out all summer, and obviously Jedi Robinson not available for this one.
Good point that they did all that without their top fullbacks on each side.
I want to see what Robinson looks like there. We don't know. I mean, he's more of a traditional fullback than Arston is, who's a wingback in Columbus. You had Aiden Morris and Tanner Tessman, which, a little bit of a surprise to see them play together. I thought maybe one of them would get on the field, but to see them play together from the start. As I mentioned, Tim Weah as a right wing back, and then Tillman, Balogun, and McKennie back in the team. Now, again, Pulisic's going to be in the team when he's healthy. So what does that look like? Is Tillman still in there? Is McKennie move into the midfield or more deeper into the midfield? And what if Morris or Tessman probably isn't the guy? Obviously, Tyler Adams would be holding down one of those positions if he was available. I mean, there are several places in this team where you go, okay, it could look, but at the same time, as you said, Rob, we're not going to get to the World Cup with every single player we want available. So learn how to play when you're mixing and matching a little bit. And that's something I think that Pochettino can take away from this game.
You got to say that Aiden Morris a little bit naive on the Ecuadorian goal diving in, but when it happened, I actually applauded like his take on the first touch and the way he rounded Richards and how close Richards almost got his toe
Yeah,
into
yeah.
block. That was
That's a
like
world-class
like
finish.
two.
That's a world-class
Yeah.
finish. You know, can you pick apart the turnover, the way it happens for the US? Sure. But, you know, if Morris doesn't play that way, is there really another way for him to slow this down and make it difficult on Intervalencia? Or because if he makes that tackle, then, you know, we're celebrating him for making that tackle. It's a choice. I get it. And it shouldn't have happened in the first place. And again, those are the moments that can have you losing games in a World Cup, and that's what we are fearful of. Hopefully, they get it together enough in the attack that you overcome some mistakes like that, because everything is a give and take, right? Everything is a little bit here. We go for it, but we lose some defensive stability here, or we end up 1v1 there. And you have to trust players like Chris Richards to occasionally, maybe more often than not, make that play.
Curious to see what Mauricio Pochettino's lineup selection looks like for the second and final game of this window. Things kind of rounding.
Australia beat Canada. I just want to put that out. Australia beat Canada, so not going to be pushovers.
Not going to be pushovers whatsoever. We'll see what that looks like late Tuesday night. Moving on to the second beat, we got called out for not including an MLS game in our Fab Four on Friday. And one of the games we overlooked, Miami, and they had their big Barcelona boys ready for this one, taking down Atlanta United 4-0. But really the headline here, MVP Messi also taking the lead in the Golden Boot for MLS, and also hunting down Carlos Vela's best ever season in Major League Soccer with, I think he's got 44 goal contributions between goals and assists, scoring his 25th and 26th of the year, adding an assist. Pretty much a blowout here, a big show in Miami over the weekend while our eyes were gazing towards the international scene.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's odd that MLS plays through the break at all. There was a handful of games. Lionel Messi is the star of the show for Inter Miami, as you would expect. That the way that this has played out, sort of interesting. We told you, right, that Lionel Messi was going to win the MVP. We did that like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whatever it was. Basically the same time we told you last year that Lionel Messi was going to the MVP. We did the same thing this year, and he's going to win the MVP. And as you said, he's probably going to win the Golden Boot. He's taking the 2-goal lead on Bouanga. Unfair to Bouanga, who didn't get to play for LAFC this weekend, and they did play this weekend. And what happened to LAFC didn't go their way. They lost to Austin. And, you know, Bouanga was in Austin. Would he have scored? Would he have kept it tight? Obviously, he's been very good with Son there as a duo, as a tandem for LAFC. So I don't love that Denis Bouanga could lose out on the Golden Boot because he missed games that Lionel Messi didn't miss for international duty. But Messi is unstoppable when he is in form. What that means for Miami's chances of winning something is certainly up in the air.
Yeah, 2-goal lead. That is funny. That all comes back to Major League Soccer playing through international breaks. It's like the unbalanced schedule marring what the supporter shield means. And then, you know, some players having to play international breaks and some not. Messi, odd as it is, you know, in an international break, he's healthy, but not away with Argentina, which is a whole thing unbeknownst to itself.
Very interesting. Yeah. I mean, just the quirks that make Major League Soccer are the thing. And it is worth pointing out, shout out to Andy, who's a member, Be Like Andy. Remember when every team played during the breaks? Brazil also plays through the window. Wonder when MLS will play no games through the FIFA windows. Now, I think maybe we talked about this a little bit and it's come up. It's just, it's very funny to me in a way, just because American soccer is like this. Now, the international breaks could still be a problem if MLS changes its calendar, Rob, which is out there as a talking point, that maybe MLS is considering switching to what is the traditional European style calendar, where we start in the fall and we finish in spring. And there are lots of reasons maybe to do that. Lining up transfer windows for the business of player transactions is certainly a major part of it. Just getting the business end of your season in a part of the American sports calendar where you're not fighting with college and pro football, that's a reason. But imagine, because Johnny Infantino just last week was laying out hints that they may have to switch the calendar again for the World Cup, because when we go to Saudi Arabia, it's going to be really damn hot. Now, it's also going to be hot next year, and they didn't consider switching it for America. I don't want to talk about that. But Saudi Arabia, maybe they're going to go to another Qatari-style World Cup in the winter. Imagine Major League Soccer switches its calendar, and then we have a World Cup in the winter, and you're just running up against that, just like everybody else, but having to find ways to break around it. You know, MLS shouldn't play through windows. MLS, just like every league in the world, needs to figure out how to handle its calendar in a way that doesn't stress its players too much. The biggest issue with Major League Soccer is that the playoff season takes so long, right? It's a problem now that MLS has to stop for the November break, and they won't play through the November break because that happens during the playoffs, and they certainly don't want teams to be playing playoff games without their best players, Rob. But right now, sure, some of these teams will play.
Yeah, that would be a caveat too far, don't you think? If playoff games, the biggest games of the season didn't have the biggest stars. Bouanga missing the semifinals of MLS Cup because they're away for international duty would be pretty wild.
And by the way, this is not what we're talking about, but again, Soccer Night in Detroit makes a good point. We actually don't know how MLS is going to handle the World Cup. Now, my guess is they're going to break for the entire thing. But it's
done like that 4-6 weeks now, right?
They've done that thing where they break for the group stage and then start playing games again when we get to the knockout phase. That may be the approach. That's traditionally the way MLS has handled it. It's mostly because, again, you shouldn't be playing through any of the World Cup. You shouldn't be playing against the world, scheduling against the World Cup, especially in your own country. I mean, how do you justify that? And yet, if MLS doesn't, how does their calendar work out?
Yeah, there's just not enough weekends or just days at all to play that sort of a calendar, and that it would be pretty wild that changing the calendar for MLS going to the winter schedule, a seismic change only for the World Cup. The thing that they're trying to not schedule through to fall into that window would be pretty wild turn of events, but just a couple games to go in MLS, and Messi on his way to an MVP and the Golden Boot. We'll see if Bouanga can get back in the LAFC action and give him a run for his money in these final couple matches of the regular season. Moving on to our third item on the list, a bit of a lower league grab bag. Friday night headlines, kind of in the USL Championship realm, a bit of a surprise. Pittsburgh Riverhounds head coach Bob Lilly suddenly put on administrative leave the night before a big game right near the end of the season. And the last sentence of their press release saying, "We will not say anything more about this," only led to more people saying, well, what the heck happened?
Yeah, this is really dicey territory for us. Now we can go diving into some of the message boards and some of the team-focused conversations that are happening on the internet and try to reason out what's going on here, but all of it is speculation. Now I've read some stuff. You can go find it yourself. I'm not gonna dispense it here on Morning Kickaround. I'm just gonna say when the words administrative leave are involved, it usually means some bad behavior has been identified, has been someone has filed a complaint, somebody has done some paperwork, there is an official thing going on. That's usually what administrative leave means. This is not, it doesn't seem like it's related to on-field results, because administrative leave usually doesn't apply to on-field results. You don't put a coach on administrative leave, you fire him if you don't like your results, right? This is not a thing that normally happens. So, and Bob Lilly's been there since, speaking of 7 years, since 2018, he's been in Pittsburgh as the Riverhounds head coach, and he's done some very good things. He hasn't won a title in Pittsburgh. That's the hill they can't get over, but he has been very good for them. He's become sort of the central figure there for Pittsburgh year to year. He is an old school coach by every report. He is not a guy who shies away from using raised tones. Now, I'm not going to suggest that's what this is about, because I do not know, but it definitely is notable, and we'll have to keep an eye on this story.
Yeah, it would have to be something significant, because it's not performance related. Since 2017, Lilly has led the Riverhounds to a 128, 64, and 74 record, making the playoffs in 7 straight seasons. And according to this press release, in his 25 seasons across 6 teams, he makes him the winningest active coach in American pro soccer. So definitely an accomplished coach, and definitely not performance related. So we shall see how this plays out as to, is this lead to harsher punishments? Is this just hey, you can't be on the sidelines while we go look into this thing over the weekend?
Yeah.
We don't know how elaborate or extended this will be, but Pittsburgh Riverhounds get the result regardless. They got a 2-1 win over Indy 11 with interim head coach, assistant coach Rob Vinson stepped in and got the victory for Pittsburgh in the USL Championship. Another note, today is the kickoff, the opening day for the NISA Fall Pro Cup. About an hour and a half north of Detroit, Michigan. The NISA Fall Pro Cup kicks off. It'll be 3 or 4 games each day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday through this week. And this is an effort to restart the National Independent Soccer Association. They kind of a soft launch to the rebirth of the league here in the fall. And they plan to, use this as a launching point for a full season next year, is what we understand.
Yeah, let's note pretty high profile pulling out from this tournament by Temecula FC, which we are working on connecting with Temecula to see what's going on with them as they announced their intent on going to USL League One rather than stick with NISA. This tournament, I think it'd be pretty easy to just dismiss it out of hand. Obviously, NISA's track record, not all that great, but it's part and parcel of the way that they want to operate, where you kind of, again, it's the good and the bad, Rob. It's like, you're completely independent. All you got to do is give us a little bit of money to enter the league in order to pay our administrative costs, and that's it. Now, you're not sharing your revenues with us. We're not taking any of your money. We're just organizing. But when you do that, then you kind of leave out there the idea of vetting these clubs and saying, okay, do you have the money to pay your players or to keep this going? How much they're paying any of these players is definitely, it's probably not a lot of money, is all I'm going to say. I'd like that there's a place for ambitious teams who maybe aren't at that let's jump into League One level to enter the idea of professional soccer, right? Again, this is semi-pro. Let's not pretend it's not. But it is some level of that. But obviously, Rob, everybody's going to be looking at this with a skeptical eye. Everybody's going to be like, okay. And the fact that they're doing a tournament in one place in Michigan, and I know they're broadcasting this, there's probably going to be YouTube ability to watch it and that kind of stuff. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like it's going to have much reach outside of very small pockets. And I'll also say we don't really know these teams. And I don't know how they tell these stories better or if it's on us, to lift this. I know Arkansas Wolves because they've been in UPSL, and I talked about a jersey that they put out one season that was like the flags of all the countries of the players that they had. I know Hailstorm because they used to play in USL League One before they were kicked out of that league for having financial issues and stadium problems. I'm going to guess Sin City is a Vegas-based team, but I don't know much more than that. LA Force, probably based in LA. What part of LA? Couldn't tell you. It says
the LA Force, to be fair, LA Force was one of the founding members. They were in the version of NISA that existed.
Yeah, that's true. That is a team that's a holdover. But we also, like, that's the other thing, is that the teams you remember aren't here except for LA Force. LA Force is the only team that you go, oh, I remember them as a NISA team. Modesto City, Peak 11 FC.
And that's the team that was the last minute ad when Temecula dropped, if you remember.
Okay, well, there you go. And again, so we're learning about this. I like, as if we're going to say dot the map and we're going to say we need more ways for teams to go pro and become legitimate operations that are more than just short season. We get a bunch of college kids together and we play some games, or we've got a bunch of 35-year-olds who played college back in the 90s or whatever that was, and we're giving them a chance. That's not how long ago that is. That's bad math. But do you know what I'm saying? Like, if we're going to get these teams to be something more than just a bunch of guys getting together to play some soccer, we need entry points. It just gets very tricky to know whether this entry point is a proper one, and if it's actually helping these teams kind of grow into being professional enterprises that can be part of an American soccer system, or if this is a whole fly-by-night thing that won't last.
Yeah, curious at what the interest level is from our viewers. I put it out in the Morning Kickaround Discord server, which you can gain access to if you become a channel member. I floated it out there. You know, this is like an hour and a half away from my house. Like, I feel like that's a bit of an itch that I should probably go out there and check it out at the very least. What is the interest in here, guys? What should I make that drive north to Washington Township, the home of Michigan Stars, who has been noted is not playing in this tournament? This tournament is being held in Michigan, but there's no Michigan teams, so that adds to the oddity of the situation. Yeah, does anyone have curiosity of what this looks like, what the playing level is like? I guess I'm kind of reaching here a little bit. Is there? I guess, is there any interest, curiosity? Is there curiosity for any, further engagement on this?
Yeah, I'll let the ultras and the members and our listeners tell you. I don't know. I mean, I would be curious, Robin, if you've got nothing else going on, if your day is completely, if you have other stuff, like if it's like hang out with my kids or go watch NISA Cup soccer, I would say hang out with your kids. That would be my choice. But I'm going to leave that to you because whether or not you believe that this is going to be a positive thing. I mean, we got NISA has no credibility. Why would any club trust NISA leadership? This feels like Members Cup 2 Electric Boogaloo, right? There's really no belief that NISA has the ability to run a legitimate soccer operation. They have to prove it to us. And I hope they understand that. Like, I hope the people that are currently involved, we had Chandler Hoffman on the show. He's been named officially as their commissioner, right? People are reaching out to us. Our inbox is filling up with things from NISA because they want to be out there. They want people to pay attention to them. Okay, but you have to earn that from us after everything that's already happened.
Yeah, indeed. That's a good point. There needs to be a little bit earned, and this is probably where I sit on this. Too many burgundies. I like NISA philosophy. They still need to set the minimum standards. I mean, this was a long road. If you follow, we could go for half an hour on the timeline of what NISA started off as, and then what they've become now.
Yeah, well, this is okay, but it's to that point, right? About NISA needs to set minimum standards. This is the problem we have in general in American soccer, right? We don't have a sense, or we don't have the capacity, because we don't have the cultural glue to hold it all together to just say this is what we do and this is how it works and everybody kind of follows along. Like, in most well-developed soccer countries, there is a culture that kind of dictates where everybody goes. It's like one of those, it's like, I don't know. It's like when you're going to get on an amusement park ride, there's barriers. You have to walk this way and turn that way. And then the line keeps you can't be like going all around the outside and all those things. You have to follow the path. We don't have any of that. It is a bum rush free for all to be involved in professional soccer in America, right? If you say, I have a better idea for a soccer league, there is nothing from stopping you from going and launching that league. Now, you have to meet the professional league standards of U.S. soccer if you want to be sanctioned by U.S. soccer, which means sanctioned by FIFA, which means players have transfer certificates and everything is on the up and up. But even that is up to challenge, right? Even that is like, even the PLS are up to challenge, right? Because if that's a restraint on trade, somebody, Rocco Comiso or otherwise, is going to take you to court over those things, because those are now restricting my ability to operate as a business in America. Forget whether it's soccer or not. So, NISA may have a new idea, and then we say, well, they meet minimum standards in order to do that. But their thing is like, well, that's completely against our philosophy to be too stringent on our minimum standards, because that prevents clubs who might not otherwise be able to enter. It's all kind of, it's all messy and chaotic is what we are.
For the live viewers, it is actually halftime in the opening game of the NISA Pro Cup. At halftime in the first game, Northern Colorado Hailstorm is 4-0 up on Modesto City FC.
All right, go Hailstorm. Let's go. Let's get it done. Hailstorm, still one of the weirder names in American soccer too, but yeah.
If you're watching this now and haven't hit subscribe, do so now. Join the movement. Help us dot the map of the American soccer landscape. If you want to kick it up a notch, if you want access to the Morning Kickaround Discord server where there's great conversations going on from a wide variety of soccer topics, $3.99 a month, become an MK Ultra, become a member of the channel. If you want to find us on social media, we are at MKickaround on Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, the whole Megillah. And then also, don't forget, we are a podcast as well, Morning Kickaround, on your favorite podcast platform. And if you want to support us outside of the YouTube sphere, coffee.com/Morning Kickaround. We got some specific fundraising goals over there. Thank you to everyone who has supported in any which way. If you don't want to do any of that, just tell your friend, send a link, do any of that, spread the word, and help us dot the map. All right, I see we have our guest from a USL expansion side. We are dotting the map of Arkansas coming up next here on Morning Kickaround. Get to know your district here on Morning Kickaround, the segment where we literally drop the pin across the map of the United States. Today, Ozark United FC planning to kick off 2 pro clubs next year, both in the USL Championship and the Women's Super League. Here to talk about Ozark United FC, co-founder Chris Martinovich. Thank you for joining us this morning on Morning Kickaround.
No, we don't have audio from Chris. Oh no, we're gonna have to figure that out. Maybe that's on your end, Chris. Can you check that, Chris? This is what happens when Jenny's not here, Rob. Jenny's off today. She's got stuff going on, and now
we're Jenny.
We're missing Jenny. Chris is trying. I think I can hear like a hissing noise. I'm not sure what's going on there. I'm pretty sure it's not on our end.
What about now? Can you hear me now?
Oh, there we go.
We're doing it live. We're doing it live.
From my other camera. I apologize for that.
That's no worries, Chris. Thank you for coming on. Obviously, we're very excited to add clubs to our little portfolio of people we've talked to around American soccer. Very interested in new clubs. Yours is a fascinating one. Give us just a thumbnail sketch on why this is the place for professional soccer in Arkansas.
Yeah, first of all, thanks so much for having me on, and I get to talk about our amazing community, and that's how this started. So our region, Northwest Arkansas, that's kind of what we call ourselves. We're in the northwest corner of Arkansas, Bentonville, Rogers, Springdale, Fayetteville. Those are kind of the primary cities that comprise this. What a lot of people don't know about our region, it's one of the fastest growing regions in America. We have several Fortune 500 companies. We have Fortune 1 located in Bentonville, Arkansas. That's Walmart. So massive organization, just opened up an amazing new campus that's bringing even more people into the community. But we've had growth here for 20 years. I came in to Northwest Arkansas in 2006. I'm a New York, New Jersey guy. Didn't know anything about the region, didn't know where Arkansas was, didn't know where Bentonville, Rogers were. And like so many other folks that came to work with Walmart, to be a supplier of Walmart, to work in that atmosphere, we ended up loving it and staying there and raising our families. And so we kind of grew up here over the last 20 years, and I really just enjoyed the community. But the biggest challenge I had was that we had no pro sports. So I spent a lot of windshield time driving to Kansas City, St. Louis, Tulsa, OKC, Dallas, Memphis, not just for soccer, but all sports, right? And what I found was that so many other folks are doing the same thing in our community. And so this initiative started in 2019 as kind of a crazy idea. I won't get into it too deep yet until you guys want me to, but that's kind of where it started. It was really about this community has so much opportunity, deserves more. We have so many transplants. We grow about 40 people a day in Northwest Arkansas, net. That's net. So it's an amazing market in the community.
That's big numbers to hear. I'm living in a place where it's always the opposite. Everyone's moving out of Michigan. So that's got to be exciting to be in a place where people are trying to get to. And you listed a couple different cities or towns there in Northwest Arkansas. So where are you planning to have the actual physical location for the club? Like, where is the central location going to be to kind of be the magnet for all those towns you listed?
Yeah, that was the most challenging part of the process. As you guys know, and you talk about it a lot, is where are you going to play? Do you have a stadium? Can you get a stadium? If you can't figure that out and nail that, you're in big trouble from the beginning. And so we spent a lot of time working on that opportunity in terms of where to go. And we ended up in what we think, and most people would agree, is the best location for a project like this. And it's technically Rogers, Arkansas. So it's one of those kind of 4 major cities, right off the main highway in 49, but it's located in what we call the Pinnacle Hills Entertainment District. This is where we have Top Golf, bunch of local breweries, a promenade, a big shopping mall. This is where everybody from Bentonville up north and Fayetteville down south comes to be entertained. The Walmart Amphitheater is there. We have huge concert events that are there. And so this is the area we wanted to go where people are, right? We don't need to be chasing them off to a field that's a half hour out of their route. We want it to be right in front of them. And so we have an opportunity now on about 38 acres of property to provide a mixed use stadium development that is really, really exciting and extremely accessible for all folks in Northwest Arkansas community that we couldn't be happier about.
So that's obviously a big deal. As you said, if you don't have a stadium plan, you're kind of dead in the water to start. Give us a timeline here, Chris, and
Yeah.
sort of, what's left to be done, because it's one thing to say we're doing this, and then it's another to actually be kicking a ball in front of a crowd under the lights or whatever.
Yeah, so I'll answer that in 2 ways. Our project as an idea started in 2019. I didn't know what I was doing then. I just started talking to the league. One of my best friends growing up was Jake Edwards, former president of USL, played soccer with Jake in high school. So we still stay in touch. Shout out to Huddersfield Town in League One, I believe now they are in. He's the president of that club right now. But that's how the discussion started.
Talked to Jake many, many, many times over my career, Chris.
Jake's an amazing human, really good family friend of ours. We grew up playing high school soccer in New Jersey together. I went to Seton Hall. He went to James Madison. We kind of continued playing our careers, but he obviously had a much better career, played in England for, I think, about 12, 13 years after college. But that's how it started. And I was working with the league and figuring out how to kind of get this, and then connected with just random folks through the community that I've had through my soccer network. The project took off, though, and became a real project when we joined the partnership, and I formed this is my co-founder, Warren Smith. You might remember that name. Yeah. So a guy who has done this before, has done it very successfully before in multiple markets. Just look at Sac Republic and kind of where they are and what they've been doing. Lucky for me, Jake sent me a note one day and said, "Hey, Warren Smith is in Bentonville." And I was like, "What the heck's Warren Smith doing in Bentonville?" So got together for coffee. It was right during COVID. Turns out his family has been coming to Northwest Arkansas for 30 years because his grandparents retired here and made it a home in Bella Vista, which is a small town on the Missouri border, Arkansas border, Missouri border. And anyway, so that's how our project, I would say, became a real project at that point, right? I had the passion, I had the local community, access, the connections, the network, the desire to do this for the community. Warren brings the expertise and the experience in doing that. And so that was 2022-ish. 23 was when we first announced our public intentions of what we were working on doing. What we discovered over that time was the property that we had initially, which was also in Rogers, also in Pinnacle Hills, but it was only about 16, 17 acres. Challenging from a mixed-use development standpoint. We ended up growing our fan base and our databases up to almost 10,000 fans in our database, which is a great number for a community our size, a team that hasn't launched yet. And what we realized is that we were going to outgrow this space pretty quickly, both from a stadium and from a development standpoint. So as you can see here, this is our newer property, and we have doubled the property size, about 38 acres. And because of that move to the newer property, we have had to push back the timing, but that's a good thing in the long run. So we see this as a aggressive time of 2027, likely scenario March 2028 is really when we're looking to be able to kick a ball with the men's team and the women's team to rapidly follow that as well. That visual there, you see, we've announced a 5,000 seat public stadium. We think we have opportunity to exceed that, but we're gonna make sure that we build the right atmosphere and build with the community.
All right, Chris, you dropped a breadcrumb there for us here on Morning Kick Around. Obviously, what we're talking about a lot these days is the big plans that USL has to launch a first division and to introduce promotion and relegation. And look, we've reached out to the league itself, and I'm not going to put you in any position to tell stories out of school, tell tales out of school, but they don't have a lot of details for us yet. What is promotion and relegation and first division soccer? Because your plan is to go into the championship, so that. Right. That right now is the top level USL has, but could be a second tier with an opportunity to go up. How does that impact Ozark United?
For us, it's just a positive. I think we're all kind of trying to figure out exactly what that's going to look like, right? I don't think there's a clear roadmap for it. I think there's a lot of complexities and challenges, but a whole bunch of excitement and positivity when you start looking at what teams are already doing to prepare from a stadium development standpoint, maximizing their seating capacities. And that focus. So all ships will rise in our scenario. We're excited about championship. We think that's the place for this community and the place for this team. We have neighboring communities, Tulsa being an hour and a half away from us. We have a lot of interaction between our communities. There's already a social media battle between our supporters group and theirs, and we haven't even kicked off a game, which is so exciting. And OKC will be returning as well. Warren had a hand in that as well. So
let me yes, I know Warren Smith, and we do want to connect with Oklahoma. I think we're going to get Court on the show at some point in the near future. But but Tulsa, we have one of our ultras, one of our members on the channel, Tulsa Mario, who we met in Albuquerque because he drove out to Albuquerque with his crew for the match that we attended on Meow Wolf Night. So I know, and he's anxious for some closer trips. He doesn't want to have to drive so far. So that's shout out to our guy, Tulsa Mario. Look, he's right there. He's saying, I can't wait to travel from Tulsa to Rogers for future rivalry matches. Shout out.
There we go. We're so excited. And I love that our supporters group and their supporters groups already started some banter back and forth. Really exciting. The communities have a lot of overlap between each other. Folks have migrated between the two and super close connections. So we couldn't be more excited about that.
Well, let me ask you about that part then, because again, having gone out to Albuquerque and seen what they've done with New Mexico United, having talked to a lot of people, clubs that are trying right now to do the lift of not just getting their stadium ready, but obviously connect with their community so that they can get excitement. And look, we know sports, Chris, are not just a business consumer relationship. There's something deeper that goes into this. So when you're trying to get your community rallied around this team, what are the things you're doing? What are you planning on doing? Yeah. How do you do that? And where have you looked for inspiration in that regard?
Yeah, no, really good questions. I think the good part about having lead time in doing this is that you get the opportunity to really build this with the community. For example, the jersey and the scarf I'm wearing and the brands and the colors. This was about a year-long process. We did 17 listening sessions in different communities. We went out to our area. People don't know we have a pretty large Hispanic population. Really unique, though. If you guys follow the Marshall Islands first game, where was it played? In Northwest Arkansas in Springdale. We were a big part of that because we, Lloyd, who brought up that organization several years ago, and when I was kind of working on this idea, we started connecting. And Lloyd is I'm blanking on his last name. I apologize, Lloyd, but he's the English fellow who brought this idea to fruition. Marshall Islands, bringing them to the first national team ever. The reason they played in Northwest Arkansas is we have the largest population of Marshallese people outside of the Marshall Islands. A really, really interesting backstory. We won't go into it too deep because we could talk about it for a long time. But we just had the first games, and our U19, we started a youth academy. Our U19 Ozark United team got to play against 3 other national teams in Springdale, Arkansas. And one of those was Marshall Islands. Their first games they ever played, first goals they ever scored were in Northwest Arkansas. And it was just amazing. Turks and Caicos was part of that as well. I mean, we got to play against real national teams, and first time we ever had national teams play. So it's one of these things that we can do and help build in our community. And what we found is that we have a lot of what I've kind of coined as closet soccer fans in Northwest Arkansas. They moved here and they were metropolitan market soccer fans, but they came here for work, just like I did, and so many others. Something like, don't quote me on the stat, but something like 70% of the Bentonville area is from somewhere else. So you have this community, very successful, community of business people that have moved here. And they sometimes were soccer players, soccer coaches, soccer fans at a minimum. And then they came here and there was nothing from a professional level. I will say our women's Razorback soccer team, with shout out to Colby Hale, is typically top 5 or 10 in America. More impressive than that is that we're top 5 or 10 in America in attendance. So we have games where we get 4,000 or 5,000 people to a women's college soccer game in Northwest Arkansas. I mean, so there's all this excitement that's there, but then people have been doing what I've been doing for years, which is go somewhere else for pro sports, travel, leave every weekend and kind of bring our money and finances to other parts of our Midwest.
It definitely sounds like you got something going on here with a growing population, a shortage of pro sports options. One thing I was curious to ask, at the Open, I said that you're launching 2 pro teams, one in the USL Championship and one on the women's side. Delve in a little bit about taking on the launch of 2 teams simultaneously.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to do it any other way. We talked about it a couple of years ago before the Super League was even kind of really a thing. We talked about this opportunity. We just didn't know how to do it, right? Because it wasn't the Super League at the beginning when we started our discussions. And then once that became to fruition, it was an absolute no-brainer. Colby, the Arkansas Razorbacks coach, has been a tremendous asset to us in this process, and seeing the success that he's had on the women's side. And also we know that in the youth, people don't think of Arkansas as kind of a hotbed, right, of soccer. But in our area, we have so much talent because, again, think about these folks that have kind of migrated here from all over the country. And when they've come, they've brought some really, really good young athletic kids, especially on the women's side. And a lot of our elite players leave Northwest Arkansas when they get to be 13, 14, 15 to go play, for example, ECNL in Tulsa, right, on the girls' side. We have 5 to 15 girls every year that commute 2 hours 5 times a week to go play at Tulsa. Like we don't want that to happen. Nothing against Tulsa, but we don't want those families to have that sacrifice.
Sure.
Or if they don't want to do the commute, they move. That's even a bigger sacrifice, right? And so that's part of what we're also trying to do here. And so to answer your question in a long ways, we've seen the talent level that's here, the excitement from what happens at the Lady Razorback games. And then, like I said, about 10,000 fans in our database who are engaged, voting on the team name, supportive of our project, and just waiting for more. And I wish we could do it quicker, but it's a long process.
No, of course. Yeah, I understand the work involved is immense. Chris, I mean, I'm going to ask a blunt question. It's come up a little bit in the chat here, and it's just something that, I think American soccer fans are constantly thinking about. And I'll say, without wishing any bad mojo towards your club, I'm sitting in this room. This is my studio in my house, and I'm doing this for 20 years. Many of the things in this room are for clubs that don't exist anymore. I have been given and sent and bought things, and those clubs don't exist. And the question will always be, is there enough financial backing to make sure this is a going concern, not next year, not 2 years from now, but 5 and 10 years and 15 years from now? So this becomes part of the furniture in Northwest Arkansas. Yeah.
Great question. Arguably the most important question in the end of the day, right? We need to be able to make it a sustainable business model. So a couple things. The way we've started our fundraising has been on 2 levels. One is at a kind of a grassroots level to help us build to do what we're doing, right? We hired a full-time employee. So it's not just Warren and I. We have Wes Harris, who's our managing director. He's literally doing this, quit his career. He's doing this 100% full-time every day in the community. He's the one that's out there growing our databases. We have a street team helping us show up at events. And so that fundraising allows us to go and build a brand, to hire an agency to help us do this, to put money down for land, right? To go and acquire the right pieces of property and hold that property and pull multiple pieces of property together. We had 6 or 7 properties that we had to merge together. If anyone who works in any types of real estate projects knows how challenging that is. And so that's been kind of our startup funding raising, and that's been amazing. We have community leaders, folks that we're not talking about billionaires or even millionaires at some time. We're talking about folks who just believe in this project, believe in us and what we're doing, and want to help us get that started. So that's how we've been growing. And while we do that, we don't do that just, this is a Warren Smith model, right? We don't do that just because we need to do it to grow our business. We also do it to de-risk the project in the future so that you can have the more substantial discussions with the higher wealth individuals, right? And so it's a process of working through the beginning stages. We had to do a reset when we went to the new land because we doubled the size, and the development now is a pretty broad mixed use development that it's a phased project. But you're talking potentially up to 300 million from a mixed use real estate development, right? Not soccer team 300 million, right? Just to be very clear. But we have, I can't get into details, but we have very positive discussions that are happening, and it's I can't wait to start announcing some of these over time. But we are really excited about the kind of financial view that we have right now in place and what the future looks like. At the same time, sponsors are a big part of this project, right? So if you think about a USL team revenue, 40% comes from sponsorship, roughly 40-ish% comes from ticket sales, roughly, right? Every team varies on that. But there's not a lot of media money, right, in the USL market. This is about, you got to be able to drive sponsorship revenue, and you got to be able to supply ticket sales. The 10,000 seat number gives us a really good indication that we're going to get ticket sales. That's our database, right? Feel really good about that, what that converts into from a season ticket standpoint. On the sponsorship, we have every major corporation in America located in Northwest Arkansas because they're working with Walmart. So, for example, I worked for an organization called Bayer, big pharmaceutical company. I moved down here years ago because I was selling product to Walmart. They wanted an office. We have 50 people in the office that came just to work on the Walmart account. And a big company like Procter & Gamble has 400 people that moved into Northwest Arkansas to work on that account. So these companies are massively engaged in the organization. We have already have 3 sponsors that have signed up on the youth side. And a company that's really, really large, and most people know, is Unilever, one of the largest CPG companies. Again, you don't think of these companies in Bentonville. They're based in their headquarters, but their, in essence, second headquarters is Bentonville, Northwest Arkansas. Okay. The other two were America's Car Mart, one of the largest used car dealerships located in Rogers, Arkansas. Big local supporters of ours. And then Arkansas Children's Hospital, which is an amazing, amazing partner that we're excited. So those are the 3 youth partners that we have. And we're already in really good, deep discussions about front of kit for the main teams. And then we'll go into stadium naming rights as well. So we just keep building while we fly it, while we operate it, while we build it, while we fly it, while we fund it, while we operate it. And Warren has done this before, right? And it's been massive to have his expertise in this, and as well as a CFO named Forrest Eber, who is also a third partner in this, who has been a financial soccer guy for many, many USL and MLS teams, including back in the day, Orlando, taking them from USL to MLS.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for detailing us. It sounds like you have a very busy year ahead of you. 2 pro teams to launch, getting support from both grassroots fundraising efforts, and it sounds like corporate sponsors waiting in the wings, and stadium plans, and a whole large development coming down the pike too. So thank you so much for joining us here on Morning Kickaround and kind of detailing the building efforts. It sounds like it's a long time in the works, and coming to a field near Northwest Arkansas in the near future in 2026. Thank you so much for joining us here this morning.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for the time. Look forward to chatting again.
Thank you, Chris. We're going to have to get Chris back, I think, at some point, and make sure I do this correctly. Jenny's not here. We'll get Chris back at some point to detail the progress that they're making with Ozark United. Very fascinating.
And it shouldn't be lost. Longtime viewer and commenter, Riverside Grove FC, becoming the latest member of the channel. So be like Riverside Grove and become an MK Ultra, and join us in dotting the map here on Morning Kickaround. And that was a American Soccer's weird note that he gave us. Marshall Islands playing their debut and having a population there. So don't tell us that you never learned anything from this show.
Just because apparently the universe is bringing things together. Tonight, I'm interviewing Lloyd Owens on my radio show on SiriusXM. So he's going to be part of our WTF for a Monday. So look for that. Wow.
Some synergy across all platforms here in the world of Dason Javis, right?
Javis Dason. You get it wrong every time. You said it, and you're the one that got it wrong again. Okay.
All right. All right. We'll clear the slate. Become a member or tell your friend about the show. Let's move on. We got one more segment lined up here on the show. Let's dip in to American soccer being weird here on Morning Kickaround. Welcome in. This is Morning Kickaround. I'm Robert. He's Jason. This week marks 7 years since one of the most unique and fan-powered moments and stories happened in America. The Save the Crew movement. Back in 2018, it was officially saved after one of the Major League Soccer original sides, Columbus Crew, were almost taken off the map. The dot was almost deleted, but it was saved.
I feel bad.
Years ago.
I'm wearing my Save the Crew scarf now because we're celebrating. It is 7 years, and we'll get into the actual details of the celebration here in a second. But this is a signed scarf. Should I be wearing this one? It's a signed scarf by some of the people behind the whole Save the Crew.
Is that Stern
campaign.
John on there? I see a John with an exclamation mark. I wasn't sure.
Not Stern John. No, that's not Stern John. Okay, let's talk about why this comes up today. So I saw this on Blue Sky. This was a massive report covering the Crew since, I don't know, all the way back. They've been around forever. So they said, happy Save the Crew Day. This is yesterday, the 12th of October. Happy Saved the Crew Day. Where were you when you learned the news? And this led to somebody tagging me because Chris here said that he was in Dark County and he heard me talking about the Crew being saved on SiriusXM FC when I was doing the United States of Soccer. And I'm telling you, like, a rush of memories, because that show, my old show on SiriusXM FC, which was so American soccer focused, we were on that beat every day. We were talking about Save the Crew. We were talking about the campaign. We were talking about the fans who were rallying around their club. I got pictures here of the banners. We've got the hashtag movement that happened in Columbus and really became sort of a national thing. Now, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to suggest there's Jurgen Klopp with a Save the Crew scarf. I think it's the exact same one I got right here. Me and Jurgen Klopp have something in common. That's pretty amazing. It is too unique not to note, right, Rob? That's what I told you. Like, it's too unique not to note this day and sort of how it came about and what it sort of represents. By the way, shout out to Ken, became a new member just now.
Ken.
Man.
Way to go, Ken.
I'm not taking any credit for saving the Crew, by the way. I was just kind of being a mouthpiece. I did a lot of interviews, talked to a lot of the people that were behind it. We talked to the people that were sort of trying to put together the new ownership group so they could buy the team off of Anthony Precourt and make sure the team stayed in the city. I don't think this has ever happened before. I don't think that anybody has ever saved their team from being relocated. And those moments of pain from a club being relocated stick with us. Like, you might be able to find Ravens fans who are very proud to have the Ravens in town. They've won Super Bowls, whatever. Great, I have the Ravens. If they're old enough, they will still tell you how much they hate that the Colts moved to Indianapolis, right? And obviously the reason the Ravens exist is because a team moved from Cleveland to Baltimore, right?
Yeah.
And so, and there is, Andy's asking about the Ohio law. There's a lot of things mixed up in my head. So if I get the details wrong, my apologies. But there's the Modell law. That's what Thomas is referencing. The fact the legacy of the Browns moving to Baltimore, the Modell law playing a crucial role is great. So what these guys are talking about is because Art Modell took the Browns and went to Baltimore, and some public money had been involved in building the Browns' stadium, the state of Ohio passed a law that said if there's public money involved in the construction of your venue, you have to give notice. You have to let people know you want to move the team and give local ownership a chance to buy the club at fair market value. Now, I don't know, man. Like, there's some details here that are beyond me as a regular Joe. But I don't know how enforceable it will ultimately would have been in the end if they decided to challenge it. But it absolutely played a role in forcing Precourt to go, okay, wait a second. Now, I think also it's worth mentioning that Don Garber threaded a needle. I don't love showering Don Garber with praise, although I think he's done a pretty damn good job in the big picture for Major League Soccer. People don't like Don. He represents big corporate fat cats and all that stuff. Okay, fair. But remember that what was going down in Cleveland is that Anthony Precourt had the right to move the team if Major League Soccer really couldn't have stood in their way. They didn't have a legal standing to keep Anthony Precourt from moving the team to Austin. And it became pretty clear in the beginning, or as soon as the word started dropping, Grant Wall with the story that the team wanted, the organization wanted to move the team to Austin, that Anthony Precourt wanted that Anthony Precourt bought the team under the pretenses ultimately that he wanted to move the team to Austin, right? And Columbus wasn't cool enough for Anthony Precourt to move the team to Austin where all the cool people were going. And obviously Major League Soccer shouldn't have sold it to Anthony Precourt if he was going to move it in the first place, because I don't think clubs should be moving, period. But again, this is part of American sports history. So when it came down to how do you make this right for all parties involved, the only way to do it is what MLS ultimately did. And again, probably because of the Modell law being pushed in that direction, MLS brings people to the table, or a group becomes a factor in trying to keep the team in town. I think somebody give me the doctor's name. Somebody knows the doctor's name from Columbus and can help me remember that, because that's escaping me at the moment. But there was a local doctor who helped put together the group, got the Haslams involved, and allowed for the team to be purchased. And then obviously MLS said, well, look, we don't want to go to court with Anthony Precourt. Let's give him an expansion team in Austin. And hopefully that will make everybody whole. Dr. Pete, I don't remember his last name. Pete Edwards. I think it's Dr. Pete Edwards is his name. So thank you to Andrew for that. And thank you to Andrew for saying that I was vital. Again, whether or not I was, I just know that it was important to me that the crew not be stolen away from Columbus. And in the end, we got an incredible story. Again, I think something completely unique in American sports.
Yeah, I like that comment just above that from a homeless shoe saying he was working at Target at the time, started screaming in joy when I found out the crew were saved. Several coworkers were scared by it. That's a fun reaction. I do remember a big relief, because not too many times or ever does the wants and demands of the big money makers get usurped by a grassroots movement. So it really is a moment to cherish and rejoice in. And as we're talking about it now, thinking back on how Precourt kind of artificially made it look like the crew shouldn't be there. It was almost like the plot of the motion picture Major League. There was reports of him closing gates and kind of making the experience less pleasant, and in more midweek games and stuff that seriously was out of a slapstick comedy film to get the ultimate goal of moving the team. But imagine the crowd in Major League Baseball rebelling against ownership and rallying and filling the crowd and getting media on their side to keep the team.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, and maybe Andrew has better details on this, some of you Columbus people, if I remember correctly, the thing that allowed the Modell law to apply wasn't even Crew Stadium, because of course that's where they were playing, historic Crew Stadium. It had something to do with like a parking garage or something that involved public funds or public concessions, and that's how this all got wrapped up with the Modell. I maybe have that detail wrong. I mean, maybe that's just apocryphal.
Was there fairgrounds? I know there was fairgrounds adjacent to the old stadium as well.
Yeah, it's that big expanse there. But I just remember it being like something not as sort of central to the ideas, like, oh, public money went into building Crew Stadium, because I believe Lamar Hunt paid for Crew Stadium himself to build that's first ever soccer specific stadium for an MLS team. Obviously, it wasn't anything modern, and eventually it needed to be replaced. Yeah, parking lot next to the stadium involved public funds, and that's how it got all wrapped up in the Modell law,
that's the hook.
Yeah, that forced Anthony Precourt to go to court to try to pull the team out of Columbus, which then obviously led to even a delay of a little bit, helped start that process, right? And again, the law dictated that there needed to be a conversation with potential owners who were going to keep the team in Columbus. And I just at the heart of this, right, and thing I talked about on the radio so many times during this period is I really don't like this idea that we are customers and that those are just a business selling us a service or selling us an entertainment experience. That's not how sports work. That's not how professional sports work. It's never been how we feel about our teams. The players will change, the coaches will change, sometimes the owners will change. But we are still connected to these teams in meaningful, emotional ways that mean we shouldn't be treated like we're just replaceable as consumers of the team. It's just a business. No, if you're going to treat it as just a business, you will fail in any attempt. This is why when we talk to Chris, when we talk about these teams starting up in USL, new teams coming into the American soccer picture, what we talk about, what we always try to get to is, what are you doing to connect to the people in your town so that they have buy-in, so that they feel some ownership over your team, because that's how you create connections that last. But your side of it as owners is to keep the team where it is, because it doesn't belong to you. It may, on paper, you may have the thing that says you own the team, but it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the people who show up every week, who wear the colors, who bring the banners, who fly the flags. That's who it belongs to.
Yeah, Thomas Dupree, one of our new members from last week, saying that it would have been a tragedy to lose the crew. Think about all the things that have happened since this Save the Crew movement. A brand new stadium was built, one of the nicest soccer stadiums in the country, and Crew have gone on to one of their most successful periods as a club since then. And we talked about the owner. There's some pros and cons. Obviously, not everything is shiny. I mean, the new ownership is also NFL ownership, and so there's some mixed what do you call it,
results. Yeah, there's some mixed results there. Yeah, Jimmy Haslam, D Haslam own the team. They own the majority of the team with Dr. Pete and everybody else. And what did the Haslams do when Inter Miami came to Ohio? They took the game up the road to Cleveland so they could get more people in the building, and we didn't love that, right? Again, it's Columbus's team. Why are you moving a game to Cleveland? At the same time, last week we had Jimmy Haslam saying MLS needs to improve the quality of its product if it wants to get TV viewership. I like that as somebody willing to push the league forward and be behind the scenes in those meetings, in those boardrooms, saying we should spend more money on our product on the field in order to be better, because I think as American soccer fans, as MLS fans, we want the league to take step forwards that way.
Yeah, indeed we do. And Save the Crew. Hurrah, 7 years on from it, and a fantastic feat. Hopefully something that will never have to be repeated, but it's a great precedent that it is in fact possible.
Yeah. All right, can we switch over to like a little bit of bonus extra time here on this morning kick around? I think we ended up with 2 members. I set the goal at 3, but I'll just give you a couple of extra notes, news items out there. We talked at the beginning of the show in long balls about the NISA Pro Cup starting today. Games ongoing, an hour away from where Robert Kerr is sitting right now. And I have an update. It's not a good one. From our friend Dan Creel, who has been on our show to talk about other nonsensical lower division soccer things. Modesto City abandoned the match at halftime that they were playing against Northern Colorado Hailstorm. They only brought 9 players, and so they abandoned the game when they were down 4-0 and ended up with Northern Colorado playing an inter-squad scrimmage instead. So not an auspicious beginning to the NISA Pro Cup here on this Monday.
That's a good note, because I was refreshing the Fat Mob, and the 4-0 halftime score line hasn't changed. So I wasn't sure if that was an updating issue or if something on the ground happened. So that's wild. 9 players showed up, and that they started the game is wild without a full squad. So yeah, definitely an interesting start to the relaunch of the National Independent Soccer Association. So maybe just a rough start, but games to be played throughout the week, and hopefully that is an anomaly and not how the rest of this tournament plays out. But yeah, not a great start, and thanks for the update from Dan Creel there covering this sort of stuff as well. Thank you to our guest, Ozark United FC. Got some exciting stuff going in. There's plenty to dig into. Our guest definitely has a busy year ahead, trying to build a stadium, build 2 professional teams, all while cultivating the community that they're putting together to hopefully support that brand new team in Northwest Arkansas. We talked about the national team, and it was actually fun. We talked about Messi going for the MVP and the Golden Boot, and we'll see how it all plays out in Pittsburgh with the admin leave for very notable head coach and successful coach Bob Lilly. All right. Anything else before we head out of here?
Man, no, I think we covered a ton of ground. Really, thanks to Chris Martinovich for coming on the show, and great episode. Ready to do this again on Wednesday. And look, again, if you're a new ultra, a new member, look for the post on the page for the Discord so you can join up. If you don't have an active link, let me know. I'll post another one. Lots of stuff going on there. You'll get some insight into what we're working on here, because I'm in the salt mines pulling some things together for us, and we've got big plans on this show.
Yeah, great stuff to come. Thank you to our new members, and look out for you in the morning. Kickaround Discord server. Can't wait to chat with you there and see your introduction. And we will be back live Wednesday morning. And until then, everybody, enjoy your soccer.